Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Victoria from Keep It Holistic, where I talk about healthy living, motherhood, and more. And today I'm going to be talking about how to prepare for pregnancy in a more natural, holistic way, following the Weston A Price guidelines. So this is a little bit different than like the traditional advice you'll get if you go to a gynecologist. They'll usually tell you to eat your fruits and veggies, cut out alcohol, drugs, of course, caffeine. That's kind of the standard advice you get. There's not usually a whole lot of preparation advice or wisdom that is given to young women and young men in order to prepare for pregnancy. So I'll be going over everything today, and it's going to go a little bit more in depth than the traditional pregnancy or conception advice. So I want to start by saying that I am not a medical professional. I'm just going by the Weston A Price guidelines and research that I've done and things that have worked for me, and not only improved my chances of pregnancy, but also just improve my overall health. These are really things that are good for overall health, but there are also extra considerations when you're trying to get pregnant. So I'm going to go over some different things today, and not just like diet, but also like lifestyle and environment. So I want to say that with these changes, you want to start at least 3 months ahead of time before you're planning to get pregnant. That's the best if you can at least do 3 months. I would advise, if you've been on birth control, if you've been on a restrictive diet, like you've been vegan or vegetarian, you may want to put these things in place like 6 months to 2 years ahead of getting pregnant. And that sounds like a long time, and you can definitely do it if you don't have any concerns like age or anything. Now, if you're like 40 and you want to have like 2 or 3 kids and you're just starting out, you haven't had any kids yet, I wouldn't wait 2 years to get pregnant. I would probably do maybe 3 months and then try to get pregnant. So this advice is more towards like if you have the time to put these things into place. Now, if you've had a child before, this is like your second, third, or more pregnancy, you want to ideally wait 2 years. So 2 years from the time that you gave birth. So when your child is about 2 years old, that is about the best time to try and get pregnant again. You can wait a little bit longer than that if you're not ready, obviously, but I would wait at least 2 years, because it takes about that long for your body to replace the nutrients that it lost from the previous pregnancy. And so also research will show that getting pregnant less than 6 months from the previous pregnancy can also cause, a greater chance of birth defects and adverse outcomes. So I would wait ideally 2 years, but if you can't, like let's say you're older and you want to have more children and you're worried about your clock and everything, maybe wait like a year or so and then get pregnant. But if you have the time, I would wait at least 2 years. And so the reason why I'm saying 3 months is because it takes 3 months for the egg to fully mature in the ovaries. So that is why I recommend 3 months. But some women need longer than that, 6 months to 2 years. So that's something to keep in mind. And also, you don't have to be perfect. Your diet doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. You don't have to have the perfect 2 year, 2 years of like perfect nutrition or something like that. So don't worry about that. Just do the best that you can. It's okay to have like treats or to eat out every once in a while, but you really want to do the best that you can and do these things like the majority of the time. And so the first thing I want to recommend is starting with drinking filtered water. So you want to have a really good water filter. The tap water in most places, even in the United States, even though it's pretty clean, it does contain quite a bit of chemicals, things from like that are running off of, industrial runoff, agricultural runoff, things like that get into the water. And so you can check this out if you're wondering what's in your water. You can go to the EWG tap water database, and I can link that down below for you guys, but you can go in there and see. Like in my area, we have 26 different contaminants. It's pretty heavy compared to other areas I lived, and this is because I live in a very agricultural area now. What we have is a Berkey water filter, and we really like it. It removes a lot of the contaminants in the water, You can check them out. I'll link that down below too. You can check out the Berkey water filter system. And we really like it because you don't have to have like an under the counter type of system. It's not that expensive. It's pretty affordable. And once you buy it, you know, the filters last for like 8 years. So I would invest in something like that. I would reduce drinking like soda, juice. Pretty much you want to stick to things like water, milk if you can tolerate it, and sometimes like I'll treat myself to like kombucha, but I mostly drink water, and that's going to be the best way to keep yourself hydrated. The next piece of advice that I have is to look through your home and look at the types of products that you have in your home, especially things like laundry detergent, shampoo, hand soap, things that you're putting on your body, things that you use to clean with, like your cleaning supplies. Go through some of your cupboards and look at the things that you have in your home and look at the ingredients in them. You can look up what, you know, the ingredients mean and stuff online. There is the EWG website. They'll have more information on there about different products and ingredients in products, and so you can figure out exactly what's in your stuff. And you'll probably, if you just spend buying like Tide and stuff, you'll probably want to switch to more natural detergents, soaps, and cleaners, and that can improve your fertility. And so a lot of these chemicals are endocrine disrupting, so they affect the endocrine system and it will affect your hormones, and that can impact your fertility. Now, there are definitely a lot of chemicals in your home, even things like your rug, the flooring, paint, and stuff. You know, you can't control everything, and it can be really overwhelming to try and detox your home all at once. So just make slow changes, do things one at a time. I have a free ebook on natural cleaners, and I have that linked in all my videos. It's down below, so you can check that out if you want to make your own homemade natural cleaning products. So next I'm going to be talking more about diet, and diet is super important when you're trying to conceive. It really makes an impact on your health and the health of your eggs, and it's also really important, if you can, to get your partner involved if you know they want to. You can't force people to be on any kind of special diet, but you know, the sperm is just equally as important as the egg. So my biggest piece of advice for you guys is to make sure that you're getting enough fat in your diet, and I'm talking about healthy fat, and I'll explain more in a second. But getting enough fat, make sure that your hormones are a little bit more balanced, and it also increases your body's ability to absorb the fat soluble vitamins like vitamins A, D, K. Those vitamins are very important for fertility. So I would be really trying to make sure you get enough fat. In American culture, especially Western culture, in recent decades, it's been highly discouraged to eat too much fat. A lot of people recommend, like a lot of doctors, they'll recommend you go on a low-fat diet. That's the healthiest, eat lots of grains. But actually, it can have an adverse effect on your hormones. So I highly recommend, you know, you don't have to go crazy on the fat, but make sure you're just getting enough fat, and make sure that you eat butter, lard, tallow, ghee, those healthy types of animal fats. I also will cook in with bacon grease or bacon drippings. Those types of fats are very healthy. Other good sources of fat are going to be olive oil, avocado oil. I wouldn't heat those oils, but they are good for like salad dressings and stuff. And then also full fat dairy is really good for making sure that you're balancing your hormones and getting enough healthy fat. So in addition to getting enough fat, it's important to make sure that you're getting enough fat soluble vitamins. So those types of vitamins are going to be found in foods like raw milk. And if you can't get access to raw milk, I would look for low temperature pasteurized, organic, grass-fed milk. That would be the next best option. And then other things are going to be like pasture-raised eggs, liver, and bone broth. And actually, liver is like a natural prenatal almost. It's almost like a multivitamin. It has pretty much all the vitamins that you'll need for pregnancy, and so I highly recommend getting liver at least once a week. I personally can't stomach eating liver itself. I have to take the capsules, like the encapsulated liver, so it's dehydrated and then put into pills, and you don't taste it. I just drink it with some water. And in addition to that, it's also really important to balance muscle meats with organ meats and skin and bone broth, because if you eat too much muscle meat on its own, it can cause your amino acids to become unbalanced. Another really good superfood is cod liver oil, and I take that every day. I used to like take it every other day. I wasn't really big on it until I had my vitamin D levels tested a few weeks ago. So at my first prenatal appointment, I had my vitamin D levels tested and they were really low. So I've been supplementing with cod liver oil, and that will naturally help to increase your vitamin D levels. It also has a lot of vitamin A, which is really important for fetal development. So cod liver oil is definitely something that you want to be taking every day. I take about a teaspoon every day. It's important to make sure that you're getting enough folate-rich foods, and folate helps with the spinal cord and brain development. So it's important to get enough folate and not folic acid, because folic acid is the synthetic version. It's better to get folate, and folate is found in Brussels sprouts, broccoli, leafy greens, and it's also found in peas and certain legumes. So you can check that out, on your own. But liver is also a really good source of folate. It is high in folate, so definitely, as I said before, make sure that you're getting enough liver in your diet. Now I'm going to be talking about things that you should avoid, and it is best if you can not to rely on a prenatal vitamin, even a whole food prenatal vitamin. I personally take my prenatal vitamins sometimes. I take a whole food prenatal vitamin, the Mega Food Baby and Me vitamin, but it's not something that I rely on for my nutrition, because the body doesn't absorb synthetic vitamins and vitamins that come in like a pill form like that. It's better to get your vitamins from your diet. So make sure that you have a really nutrient dense diet, and it's okay if you want to take a prenatal vitamin. I'm not discouraging you from doing that, but also I would be careful taking a prenatal vitamin with things like cod liver oil and stuff, because you could be getting too much vitamin, especially vitamin A. So be careful with that. But if you want to take a prenatal vitamin, go ahead, but don't rely on it. And other things that you want to avoid is soy. Soy can affect your hormones, so I would reduce soy, and I personally only consume soy if it's like fermented. So sometimes, occasionally, like maybe every few months, I might have like some miso or something, miso soup, but I really don't consume a lot of soy. And then also, soy is found in higher quantities in processed foods. So you really want to avoid processed foods, because they tend not to have some really good ingredients, like frozen foods, boxed foods, like boxed Kraft macaroni and cheese, for example. I would recommend avoiding those foods, because that can affect fertility. And also avoid industrial seed oils like canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, grapeseed oil. You want to avoid those type of oils, because they cause inflammation in the body and they cause a lot of problems in the body. I'll link a really good article down below that talks more about industrial seed oils, because I don't want to get too in depth in this video. So I've already talked about cod liver oil and liver, and those are two very important whole food supplements, or they're not really supplements, they're kind of food, but those are two things that you need to include in your diet. It's very essential. There are also some other guidelines for the Weston A Price pregnancy diet that I want to mention in this video, and one of them is you need to drink, or at least they recommend that you drink, a quart of whole milk every day, and preferably raw milk if you can. So the funny thing about that is I have been drinking raw milk this whole pregnancy, not a quart. I definitely don't have I can't afford to drink a quart of milk, because I also give milk to my kids. So if I was drinking like a quart of milk, I'd be going through several gallons a week. So I drink maybe like half of that, or maybe even less. I drink like maybe like 1 or 2 cups of milk a day, and I try to drink raw milk. But the unfortunate thing was that just recently our local farm shut down, which is really, really sad. And I've looked, and there is one other farm in the area that might have milk in a few months, but the next farm after that is about a 6-hour drive from us one way. So we can't access raw milk right now. So I'm actually going to be drinking low temperature pasteurized kefir. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy low temperature pasteurized milk and then make it into kefir, and that is my goal until I can get raw milk again. So it's unfortunate because I'm pregnant and I really need the nutrition, but I'm just going to do the best that I can. I highly recommend this if you don't have access to raw milk. You can't have, like, I don't have enough land for a cow right now. So you can do that if you can't get raw milk. And then the next recommendation that they have is 4 tablespoons of pastured butter a day. And if you can get raw butter, that's great. But like if you can only get access to pasteurized butter, that's fine. Like Kerrygold butter is really, really good. I really like that if I'm getting some pasteurized butter. So you know, as I talk about these guidelines, just keep in mind that these are the guidelines, but like I personally can't eat this much food every day. So I eat, you know, maybe like sometimes, like for example, the milk, I'll have like maybe half the recommendation just because I don't consume or can afford to consume that much food every day. But that is the guidelines for milk and butter. And then they also recommend at least 2 eggs every day. So like 2 eggs for breakfast, and then get as many yolks as you can. So that like raw yolks, so you can add those to smoothies, or like you can make like a kefir smoothie or something like that. You can add it to like soups and stuff like that, as long as the soup's not too hot. So according to the Weston A Price guidelines, you should ideally consume fish or seafood 2 to 4 times a week. And they recommend especially like wild caught salmon and fish eggs and shellfish. So those are really high in like omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D. They have a lot of vitamins in it if you can. And then also they recommend oily fish or lard every single day. So that's important for vitamin D. So I would recommend eating as much of that as you can. Now I personally, I have the like salmon or something, I'll have that like once a week. I cannot really fit in more than once a week. And also I kind of do that because I try to keep, because there's a lot of mercury, there can be mercury in fish. So for me, once or twice a week is a little bit more doable. And then I will try to, you know, since I don't eat like sardines or oily fish every day, I will take, I'll try to cook with lard every day. I also recommend that you eat beef or lamb every day. And again, like with all these foods, including like the eggs and the milk and everything, you want it to be healthy, pasture raised animals and grass fed. You want, you know, the healthiest and the best nutrition possible and the most nutrient dense. So try to eat beef every day or lamb. And then also they recommend, you know, they don't have like a guideline exactly for how much, but drinking bone broth and eating fermented foods or drinking fermented foods every day, which I do. That's pretty easy to do. It's easy to add a little spoonful of sauerkraut to your meal, and bone broth, you can easily sip on that. I'm constantly making bone broth. And a tip for bone broth, what I do is I make like a larger batch of it and then freeze some of it, and then I'll slowly defrost it, so I'm just constantly having a supply of bone broth. And something also that's really easy to get into your diet that they recommend is taking or cooking with 2 tablespoons of coconut oil every day. So that's pretty easy to do. I do that. You can add it to your smoothie. You can cook with it. Like I'll cook my eggs or whatever in it, and I do that every day. And then, you know, maybe the rest of the day you'll cook with lard, for example. And then they have, they don't have exact guidelines, but you should properly prepare your grains. And maybe I'll make another video about that, but you should be soaking or souring, sprouting, fermenting your grains. And I have a soaked oat recipe on my website. You can check that out for oats. Other, you know, grains you will sprout or like make sourdough bread. So make sure you're properly preparing your grains. And then also you want to be getting fresh fruits and vegetables every day. And for the vegetables especially, I will tend to cook those because it's a little bit easier to digest. I don't eat as much raw vegetables because it's harder on the body to digest. And then in terms of their recommendations, they also recommend that like a few things that you should avoid. And I think I've already mentioned most of them, but one I haven't really mentioned yet is that you should avoid sugar. Because sugar can increase, you know, inflammation in your body. It kind of feeds negative bacteria. I know, like, whenever I've had bacterial infections, if I cut out all sugar and carbs, because carbs can break down into simple sugars, when I cut those out, like when I went on the GAPS diet, I had a gum infection and it completely went away. So I would highly recommend reducing your sugar. Now you can still have treats from time to time. Also, reducing sugar is really good for avoiding UTIs, which are more common when you're pregnant. So I'm prone to UTIs when I'm pregnant. If, just want to throw this out there, if you are prone to UTIs while you're pregnant, it's really helpful to not only avoid sugar, but it's really helpful to take D-mannose. It's a type of cranberry sugar, and you just take that every day, and that causes the bacteria to get flushed out of your system easier. So you'll have a reduction, or maybe be able to completely avoid UTIs. And I can tell you from my personal experience, my last pregnancy, because I'm prone to UTIs, I was taking it every day. And then there was a few days, like in the middle of the second trimester, where I forgot to take it, and then I got a UTI. So, and then I was able to treat the UTI with the D-mannose. As soon as I started taking it again, it went away, and drinking lots of water. So just want to throw that out there. You deal with that while you're pregnant. And also you should avoid like soda and stuff, and I kind of mentioned that. That's also really sugary. So try to avoid that stuff when you're pregnant. It's super important, and please note this, that you are supposed to do this diet in its entirety. You're not supposed to do like bits and pieces of it, like cod liver oil, but you're still eating like fast food or something and not taking the liver. You want to do like this full diet because you want to have your nutrients balanced. You don't want to have like too much omega-3 fatty acids and not enough omega-6 or arachidonic acid. I think that's how you say it. It's a little tricky to say, but you really want to make sure everything's balanced. And it's really important, and I didn't mention this before, but it's really important to stop taking the cod liver oil a month before your due date, because if you continue to take it up to your due date, you could have an issue with hemorrhaging or bleeding really heavily during delivery. So make sure you do this whole diet in its entirety and stop the cod liver oil 1 month before your due date. So I hope that this video was really informative for you. These are my fertility tips based on the Weston A Price pregnancy diet guidelines. So this also includes their dietary recommendations as well, in addition to like lifestyle changes that I mentioned. This will really greatly improve your fertility. If you start implementing these things, you'll find that you'll not only feel better, you'll feel healthier, but you may have an easier time getting pregnant. And soon I will be uploading my video on the natural family planning method of, birth control, or if you're trying to get pregnant, that can also increase your chances of getting pregnant. So stay tuned for that video. And if you have any questions, leave a comment down below, and please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys again soon. Be well, guys.